you once again for joining us. Good morning. It is Monday. It is 11:49. We are coming at you today a little bit late, but we are still here, and it is going to be a great show once again. As I tell you, every single morning we come to you with community members, we come to you with community leaders, and we bring to the table conversations that are going on with our community so that we can discuss them. And but as we always say, when we highlight issues, we also would like to, at the end of every conversation, talk about solutions, because when we highlight issues that go on with our community, we also have to bring about solutions to those issues. But this is a special morning. I am today here joined by a great friend of mine, a big sister of mine, which is also a great member to our community. She's been with the African Leadership Group for a while, and she's been doing a great job with every involvement of hers, especially with the Women's Empowerment Committee. But as you can see on the title, today's subject is about raising African kids, raising kids in America as an African immigrant. Last week we had kids who came from African immigrant homes or homes of African immigrants, and whose parents were African immigrants, talking about their experience growing up in America and growing up as kids, you know, having to be American outside of the house, having to be African inside of the house. And today we have the rebuttal. We have the parents here today talking about their experience of raising their kids inside of their African households in the American society. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you my good sister, Madinah Nakuya.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying your last name right.
Yes, you're saying it right.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother Abdul.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
That's great. I'm doing good. Doing good. So before we go into the conversation, let's talk a little bit about your involvement with the African Leadership Group. How did you discover the African Leadership Group, and how did you come to integrate ALG?
Thank you for inviting me. And I came to the African Leadership in 2018. I had a brother who had joined me, and I didn't know how to go around getting him jobs before he got settled in, like get permission to work in the United States. So a friend who is a Black American, he was a boyfriend to a friend of mine, he gave us Papa's business card. So we called on a Monday. I think we got it on a Sunday. We called on a Monday. We went straight to voicemail. And I was like, is this really true? Who are these? Africans helping Africans in America? Anyway, after like 2 hours, they returned our call. Papa's personal assistant returned our call. And then he made an appointment with my brother. My brother came through, met him, and he was connected. He was able to get jobs until later on when he got his work permit, and he was able to do his own work, get other jobs. But at least he was able to take care of himself during that time while filing for his immigration and everything, waiting for it to be sorted.
That's a great success story.
Yes,
that's a great success story, and I think it is a success story, but it's also a it's just it's what we do here at the African Leadership Group.
I found out.
It's Africans helping Africans, but also so discovering from that, and now being part of the family and being part of those who are helping the community and doing how does it feel, or your work, to be able to not only benefit from the African leaders, but also give back to the community and engage within the different committees to be able to give back to the community.
I can say it feels so good giving back or supporting the rest of the community, because when my brother told me, oh, I met this guy, he's called Papa, I was like, Papa, okay. I was like, are you sure they're not going to send you to selling drugs or what? Anyway, so I had a very busy schedule from at work, and when I had a day off, I just drove. I didn't even tell my brother, just in case he would alert him. I just dropped in. And I found out, well, he's genuine. He's a good person. And then I met with Papa. He told me more about the organization. Before, when my brother joined him, he didn't know what they do. He was just like, oh, this is a guy to connect me to jobs. So and then maybe he had a few events that he attended. I think that was business. So he used to volunteer some Tuesdays. I don't know if it was Tuesdays or Thursdays. And I was like, what are they doing? What? So when I came and met Papa, I realized, yeah, this is genuine. It's not anything illegal. And he told me about the classes, the public speaking classes, and I was like, yeah, yes, I'm struggling as an immigrant, with an accent, and then I had a mixture of an African plus a British accent in between. So I was like, yeah, I'm struggling. Maybe I need to meet up with my colleagues in a classroom and see how I can strengthen or get rid of my African accent and, you know, get onto the American. But when I came into the class in 2019, I realized I don't have to lose my African accent. I can still be clear, I can still be understood with my proud African accent. And that's one thing that I achieved out of that class. And also I got involved with the women empowerment. I became a committee member. We've helped out a few women. I've met great friends in this place. I've got very good business ideas. Actually, that's how I started my janitorial.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was doing janitorial before I got my documents. And I kept doing it part-time. But our professor, I realized he has a company, and I was like, oh, I need to open up a company. So I opened up my janitorial company in 2018, April. 2019. After I've talked to Professor. And yeah, I've learned so much. And this is a community I would not want to lose touch with. Each time I come, I get renewed. Each time I come in, I get a new idea. I get more confidence. I get more, it's just like, it just gives me light. Yeah.
And it feels like it's almost needed every time you gotta go to, you know, get into the culture and feel the family and feel the love. And you know, we are always here for that. We're always happy to see community members.
What I found out about this place, you come in and you get sorted there and then. Later on, my daughter joined me. I came in to introduce my daughter to Papa. And then, is she in school? I was like, are you not moving us so fast? Yeah, I know this, I know that. Immediately brought in someone at the school, and I was like, you're going to the school tomorrow, you're going to be enrolled, blah, blah. Everything was done just there. Within an hour, we had her school all, because I didn't know, I'm an immigrant. When I came in here, I was looking for jobs. I didn't know how to go around with the schools. When I met Papa, within 1 hour of introducing my daughter, we had the whole school thing sorted out.
So, and you touched on this earlier, which is as an African immigrant, just dealing with the accent is hard enough of a job. Now, let alone having to get yourself into the society, finding work. But then raising kids, though, is a totally different subject. I mean, I'm a kid. I'm still being raised by my parents, and I can say it's not an easy job for them to raise me. So I can see that raising kids anyway is hard, but especially in a society where even you yourself don't feel 100% part of that society. How hard of a job is that?
I could say raising kids everywhere is hard. There's no manual. The best way, most times we use the way we are brought up. Now, I was brought up in Africa. I was brought up in the African culture where you can't say no to your parents, where everything is yes, yes, mom, yes. Then you come into America where it's different. So the culture is clashing. You're always butting heads with these kids. Then the kids have also their own idea of who they want to be in America. Because when they were in Africa, they were dreaming. Oh, I'm in Africa, Mom. I was here for 4 years. My daughter was home, living with her grandparents. So she had an idea. She was watching. She had her own dreams. Then I come in here. She comes in here, and I also have dreams for her. Oh, this is how you're supposed to do it. But she has another way of doing stuff. So you keep clashing all through. Yes, they may be humble for about 6 months. After 6 months, they know more of America than you do because they're in school. They integrate so fast than us, the older people. Because my focus is making sure I have an income. So I'm always focusing on work. How do I make more money? When they go into school, they focus more on other things. Then they watch more TV. They have a lot of social media. They see other things. They read more than what we do. So it's just so hard. It's hard. And then the kids realize, wow, this is America. At 18, I am my own person. I'm an adult. Then I can have my job right from 15. I can have an income, so I don't really depend on my parent. I can do whatever I want. I can move out of my parents' house at 18. It's hard.
Have my own apartment.
Have my own apartment because they can afford it.
So let's talk about something that's really interesting, and that is you talked about the integration. It is fairly hard, and most of it is just based on the age and generations. Because when you migrate here, and you already have to take care of the family, then you're not really worried about integrating, being part of society.
Yeah.
As to where now the new generations are coming here as kids and as teenagers, you have a lot of time to really migrate and get into your society.
Yeah.
So having integrated and seeing your daughter integrate, what are some of the differences that you've seen in the integration, the different integration processes between you and your daughter?
It's still culture clashes. In our culture, you don't say no to your mom. You don't. Okay. In America, the kid will have a car. At 16, they can drive. In my country, the kid is still being driven by the parent. Then in America, the kid can still go and their own money. Therefore, they can have their own decisions. Whereas in my country, you're dependent on your parent all through until you've done with university. It becomes so hard to control this child in the way you know best, the way you were brought up, and it clashes a lot. Then they come up with all these different things because they are so quick. They want to become Americans, and you also want to keep them Africans in your house. Each time they come in, it's just you're clashing. So it comes to a time where you're like, okay, I give up. In my house, you do your rules, but then you kind of bend them. And in so doing that, these kids realize they have a lot of leeway. They realize they control you somehow. They own the house, they own the TV, they own everything, literally.
It's all theirs. You're working and they're there.
And you're providing. She'll come and say, oh, how come there's no bread today? And you're like, oh, the last loaf of bread got rotten in the fridge. Yeah, but I need it today. It's just it's hard. Especially, even if you have two parents, because you all don't have the same time. You don't have enough time to be in the house with them. And when you create the time, they want to be alone in their bedrooms. They have their cell phones, they have their own laptops. It's I can imagine it and again, just a disclaimer, I'm no parent, I don't have any experience at all. But you've done what you've done to your parents.
That I plead guilty. But I can just imagine just the fact that, and you said this earlier, there's no manual in how you raise kids. The best opportunity you have is looking back at how you were brought up. Yeah. But you were brought up in a whole different society. Very different. Even that doesn't serve you. It doesn't. So you are going into this not having anything at all. Nothing at all. And so aside from that, we can also say as immigrants, we're coming from different cultures, different society. There's a part of our culture and our ways back home that we want to keep in us. How do you go about, as parents, how do you go about that of, okay, we are living in the U.S., but this is where we came from. I still value this and this and this. And as you being my child, I would like to teach you this, so this can carry on and living.
It's this starts even clashing right from the food. You want your African food. She's like, I'm not having that. She will walk out. Remember, she has her own money. She'll walk out, drive out to go buy McDonald's every day. And you're like, this food is not good for you. She's like, I can't have your African food every day. But you're like, this food has brought you up. Now, no, I'm in America. I'm not going to have that every day. You clash on that. You're like, are you going to spend all your money on takeaways, on food? They won't understand that. Then you're insisting on having your language spoken in the house. In a few months, your daughter or your son won't be able to speak it. They will be speaking. You're like, what did you say? You're like, what did you say? Could you please speak something I understand? Then you speak in your English with an accent. She's like, Mom, it's not said like that. I'm like, but at least you understood me. You're always batting. It's really, the best you can do, I could say, is bring them up with the fear of God. But at 18, they still have their own choice to decide who they want to be. You won't force them to go to the mosque or to go to church at 18, after they've turned 18. So it's just God's grace, I could say. It's just by grace that you bring up kids. And all kids are different. You can't say that you're going to use the same method on all your 4 or 3 kids or 2 kids. They are all different. Some might be calm, some might be so eager to know what's out there. Others may depend on you. They will never go, everything's like, mom this, mom this. Then the others who just want to be out there. They are going to tell you how they want it, how to do it. And this is how they do it because the Kardashians do it like this. It's terrible. Then you come to the education system. You're like, oh, we need to have job security. So if you're you're trying to do a course, have something that it will be permanent, something that will give you a job, you're assured of a job. Let's go into nursing. She'll say, no, I'm not doing nursing. I want to be a model.
Look, this is the thing that I think all African parents are guilty of.
Yeah, because
this is a message that was sent to me by the kids. When you grow up in an African household, education, it's interesting, especially because you brought it up. It's you have to be a doctor,
pharmacist.
So anything in the health field, a lawyer, or now an engineer. Why is that? Why is the way? And that's true. It's not just a stereotype, but it's something that's completely true within the African family.
We carry this right from home. When you talk, when your parent is an engineer, you know the whole village knows about you. When your parent is a doctor, everyone knows about you. So it all starts with the culture that we come from. In our culture, actually now musicians are now recognized, but when we're younger, how do you come up and you say, I want to be a musician, I want to be a comedian? That was no culture. That was no profession when we are growing up. Right now it is within your time right now, but it's still embedded in us. We are actually imitating what our parents told us, and it's the same thing we are passing on to our kids. That's the best way we know how. You can't come up, oh, I'm going to be a comedian, okay? Comedian. That's a hobby. It's not a profession. Yeah, you may be able to make money out of it, but give me a degree in something before you become a comedian. That's the way we're brought up. That's Africa. Africa for you is like, give me a profession. And a profession, if you're not in the medical field, you're not an engineer, you're not
a lawyer.
You're a lawyer, you're nothing. Yes, a teacher is a yes, but anything apart from that, no.
That's still not a good answer for me.
No, we are learning, but it's not easy. We are trying to learn, but this is what I've had. I have a friend who is doing, he's becoming a doctor. He's starting to be a doctor, but he loves, what was it that he loves to do? Something else, but he was like, yeah, I'm getting this degree from my parents, give it to them, then go do what I want to do. I was like, at least that's better. Whatever you want to do, if you fail, you have something to fall back on. So we want you to have a safe net to fall onto. Not just go and then come back later when you're in your 40s. Because most of us have come from Africa with professions. So we came in here and then just went in something that would give us the money. I've seen people who have come from Africa as lawyers, but our legal system and this legal system are different. That means you're going to give in another 3 years. To get the American legal system. So we've struggled, we've had our struggles, and we are fearful for you guys to go into the same footsteps. That's why we tell you from the beginning, do this. After that, go do whatever you want. But at least this is there. At 30, if you wake up and you don't want to be the comedian you wanted to be, you have this and you just get employed.
Is there a way for us to overcome this generational divide of, okay, we understand that our parents are Africans, that they grew up in a certain society with different norms than what we have right here now in America. At what point are we able to come together and bridge that and be able to understand both perspectives of, I understand my parents are African, I understand that I'm growing up here, but I also understand that there's an important part of them that they still want me to keep. And also the parents understanding, I come from Africa, but my child is growing up in a different society. How am I able to recognize the difference between those two and still be able to communicate with them effectively?
That might be, it takes from parent to parent. It depends who is around this, who you are surrounding yourselves with. So if I'm a parent and I work around my African people, I won't change. Because I'm an African at home and I work around my African people. There's no way I'm going to change. And maybe I don't even have any interaction with the people, the natives, the Americans. So that won't change at all. This parent will surely be African.
And for most African immigrants who are working are mostly surrounded by immigrants.
Yeah. Now, for myself, I was the only African in the organization I worked for. But however much, I am a social worker. And the way I deal with my clients is not the same way I deal with my daughter. Yes, I will give you motivation interviews, ask you what you want to do. But when I come home, I don't know what happens. I'm an African. I tell you what to do. Because I'm your mother. This is not a profession. This is my livelihood. So I am a mother at home, and the mother in me tells me, I tell you what to do, because I'm talking to my kid, however old you are. Whereas at work, I have to keep my job. So I have to work the way it's supposed to be done. How do you think if we did this? I won't even suggest, but I'll work along your goals. I'll work with you as a client, but it's so hard to switch that into the house. Once in a while, but you realize it doesn't work in an African homestead. I've seen people who have stayed here for 30 plus years, and they still believe in African culture. They still believe strongly that's the best way to bring up our kids. Because at the end of the day, we are also scared. If I take you to Africa, how are you going to behave with your grandparents? If I don't get it right now in the roots when you're still young, you're going to go home and just shame the whole family. So it's better I start with it right here. When my parents come and they're talking to you, you've got to be respectful. With my culture, you've got to kneel down. You've got to say exactly what I want, what they should hear from you as a child, an African child in America. So for us to switch, that might be a bit tricky. I've even seen those who are married to Americans, but then they do different. When they want something that is so American, they go to the American parent. Then the American parent has to explain to the African parent. So when it's an adult to an adult, it's better. But when it's a kid to the parent, it's going to still be hard for you. It's still going to be hard.
It's yes, and you know, I can just, there's no way that can be easy, just because there's really a lot. So kids are integrated. African immigrants are not, parents mostly are not they're just not as integrated as the kids are. Yeah. So even with that household, do you feel as though even in your household, having kids, that even in your household sometimes you are an immigrant because your kid is so integrated that there's still that even inside the house, or as you said earlier, the accent of, oh mom, no, that's not how you say it, this is how you say it. Oh, you can't do that, this is how you do it. Or even when some African kids go outside, they do switch the language of, you know, if they called you Baba, now it's Dad. Oh, how have you experienced that? Yeah,
they still we really become comedies to whatever we say. You hear them say, oh, my mom does this, my mom, because the way we do things, because we are grown-ups, we don't have enough time to learn that technology, to learn all these cultural differences, learn their food, learn how they eat this. You wake up and she brings something, oh, this is what, you're like, what's that? How do you eat it? And then they laugh at you. You're like, Mom, you've been here longer than me. I'm like, yeah, but do I need to eat that? Do I need to know how that is done? Then you come to social media. Maybe you're so used to Facebook. They bring up the Snapchat. They're like, oh, this is done like this. You're like, what? I don't have time. I just have to do my jobs. They teach you more, but it also depends. If you're not very rebellious, your parent will be able to learn from you. And if you're not really laughing, because there are jokes, then it goes, somehow we also get inferior complex. Because, we get inferior complex. You're like, oh, then you tell your friends, I can't say that when she's here. Because, it comes to that. Then you're like, oh, I can't put on that when she's here, because she's going to comment on how you dress. Because you're like, I just want to be an African Indian. She's, oh, my friends are coming. How can you dress like that? Then you're like, I'm in my house. And she wants you to, you're like, then you're always, can I say, you're butting heads. But if your child is kind, because they also have to be kind to us and be polite as they're helping us integrate. Don't be so critical as a child to your parents. Find a way to get them interested in this culture changing in a more friendly way. I may not be that friendly to you, but if you want me to change as your parent, be more friendly to me. Don't laugh at everything that I say. My daughter will laugh at everything I say, will laugh at my accent, will laugh at the pronunciation. I'm like, haven't you understood? Did you just say? Now, in my culture, we have a problem with the L and R. So I could say something where it's an R, I say L. She's like, I'm like, but didn't you understand? I'm like, I'm from Uganda, and from a language that has a lot of L, so what do you expect? Then she will go tell her friends, and then the joke leaves the house. People come here, she say, Mom said this, and you're like, did you have to? Then the next thing is like, I better keep to my mother tongue in the house. Then, you know, so it's, remember at work, you're also having that. You'll say, now, Americans, when I went to work, Americans call trousers pants. I say trousers at work. My workmates were like, Madinah, you say old words. But I speak British English. Trousers are trousers. The pants, yeah, but...
And that's most African English speaking because they were colonized by British.
They laughed. It was the joke. Trousers, everyone was trousers. Those are old words. To me, it's the normal word that I learned. And it bothered me. Yes, I laughed about it, but it bothered me. I was like, wow, okay, trousers. So then I had to learn pants, pants, pants. I'm like, pants? These are jean trousers? These are linen trousers? I was like, okay.
You know, the inferiority complex is really an interesting point because it's something that I've really never paid much attention to, or this is really the first time that I'm really hearing about it. But aside from that, there's an important part of growing up in America that talking to kids who are growing up here from African immigrants household that most African parents don't take into account, and that is growing up in America as a minority. Because most parents grew up in Africa as being part of the majority. And so race was probably not a thing for 90% of them. People never looked at themselves as, oh, I'm black or I'm this,
white,
just because everyone around you was the same. So how have you had to deal with that? And if so, how have you dealt with growing up as a majority and now seeing your kid grow up here as a minority and with everything that basically comes with being black in America?
There's a struggle, especially when the kids go to school. When they're home, within your community, it's good. They go into school and no one wants to be their friend. They have an accent, they're Africans, and my daughter was like, oh, I was in boarding school, like, your parents are mean. She looks at them and they're like, are you okay? Then the kids from Africa, their integrity is higher than the kids here. So they realize that, oh, I know more than what they know. Then they look at you African, they all don't sit with you at break time. So your kid hates school. There was a time my daughter was like, Mom, do I have to go to school? I hate it. Because no one was coming to her. They look at her. When she says good morning, no one says good morning here, but in Africa, everyone greets good morning. They look at her, no one wants to share with her. Those who talk to her will talk to her outside school. And when they're in school, they ignore her. So you're struggling with the kid. She's not settling in. Then you're also so busy with work. Then they create a personality that you're not even aware of as a parent. Because they have to become very defensive. They realize, they feel that they're alone in this. So they have to find every mechanism to live in this world and be able to fight all the opposing powers. And then you see a very rebellious kid. Because they have to show, they have to have a thick skin at school and then at home as well. Then, and a new personality comes out of the kid. A very new personality that you didn't know.
And you know, how do you understand that? Because dealing with it is a whole other subject, but you cannot deal with something that you don't understand. And I think, you know, a lot of parents from our community are still struggling with that, because even though now they're living in a society, it's not easy to understand, you know, how it is to grow up or live as a minority when most African immigrants still don't see themselves as minority, even though they're living in America. It's just the way that they're wired, right? So it's difficult to relate. Having went from that, do you have any advice for parents from our community on how to recognize that and how to deal with it? Because that can be the root of a lot of issues.
Yeah. Unless you recognize it, that would be the only way you could deal with it. But it would be better for this to deal with it on peer to peer. Find another immigrant who has gone through it, because however much you speak about it, I'll tell you the African way. do what you have to do. You know, that's the way we used to do. Just have good grades and walk away. But that's not the thing right now in high school, right, in America. So we should create peer groups, people who have gone through it, to help the ones who are going through it and give them better methods. Because we as parents don't know. We don't know how to deal with the Americans. We don't know how, because you go to school and talk to the teachers, they don't know. And then this kid doesn't want you to fight their battles because they will look like they feel they're sissies. It's all, the best way I could say is peer to peer. Find someone who has gone through it, someone this kid can trust. There are things they go through they don't want to tell us. Let them talk to someone who has gone through it and find out how to deal with it. We don't know, we haven't walked the walk, so we don't know how to deal with it.
The 2 points that I want to bring up just before we finish, because we've hitting the half hour here, and it is culture. First of all, because culture is important. It goes from food to the language to music, the way you dress up, and we live in a society where, I mean, maybe now it's getting better, but a lot of teenagers who came to this country as young grew up with being called names just for being African, or even just for little girls, right? The way your hair is getting made fun of, and now we live in an age where a lot of that is celebrated, right? And how do you make sure that no matter what goes on outside of the house, that your kid learns to value the culture, know what it stands for, what it means for you, and what it should mean for them coming from that culture, and having that self-love and security about who they are, what their culture represents to them. How do you navigate that?
I think the best way, the way I've done it is always talk about our culture, try to encourage them to watch more of the TVs from home, the channels for talking about Africa. But it all depends from kid to kid. Some may still want to be what their root, they might still want attachment with their roots, some may not want. But try while you still can, get them involved with their community, so that they realize they're other Africans like me. They may not come from East Africa, West Africa, but they're Africans like me. They have made it, I can make it. At home, as much as I'm grooming you to be a cultured African child, I have to still show you love, because that's one thing that these kids want. They want love. I can still show you that I can still talk about my culture and its weaknesses and its strength, but with love. Because most times when we talk about culture, my daughter is like, we are fighting. But then you're like, yeah, that's what we did because our culture does that. And it keeps us within the culture. It gives respect to our elders. It gives this to them. And that's the best way we can. Just continue in getting them engaged in the community, get them engaged in stuff that are within your own country, and talk about it. Once in a while, bring out an outfit that she may not put on, but at least, yeah, that's from grandma, that's our culture, you dress like that. Yeah, whenever you want. She may keep it for 2 years, but then one day when there's a cultural event, she might bring it out.
Here's another thing, and this is not a question coming from me again. I've been sent questions by kids from our community, and this question is, African parents do not know how to show affection. Rarely ever do you hear an African parent say to their kid, I love you. Why is it so hard for African parents to just show their affection for once and look at their kids and just show their affection? Because we live in a society to where kids see their counterparts getting that affection every single day. And we're just humans. When you see something, you want it.
You want it. Yeah.
When will we get that affection from our parents?
This still goes back to our parents and grandparents. We didn't get it.
Now we're blaming you, and you guys are blaming you.
Because the only way African parents show they love you is by providing. That's the way they show their affection. I love you, so I provide for you. That's the way. That's the best way. We don't say I love you, because once in a while, I had a culture with my daughter to say I love you. But if I don't mean it, I'm not going to say it. If you're being mean to me, I'm not going to say I love you. Why should I say anything to love about you? I'm your mom. Just know I love you. That's it. It's so hard. Yeah, we try to hug, but again, the culture. My culture is not a hugging culture. I think all my life, I'm 44, I've hugged my mom maybe 3 times. Only at the airport when I'm flying out, not at home. Mom, it's not a hugging culture. It's so hard because it's what is embedded in us. We can only give out what we experience and what we have within us. My grandmom loved me so much. She never hugged me at all. So how am I going to hug you? Yeah, you won't get it from us, but your kids that you have, we shall hug them because we will have learned. But right now, we want to learn. By the way, not that we don't know. We know that all these things happen, but we don't know. We think we are going to spoil you. We are so scared of the unknown. As much as you see us doing this, we are very scared parents. We don't want to spoil you. We want to keep you rooted. It's so, you're always scared for your kid. Maybe when I'm so sweet to them, I'm spoiling them. And then so many people are judging us within our community. We are being judged day in, day out. Or she's spoiling her kid because she's always with her. She's spoiling her kid because she's always being sweet to her. She's spoiling her kid because we are judged, we are judging ourselves, everyone is judging us. It's a lot of things.
Well, kids, it seems like we are just the unfortunate victims of this lack of affection in our African household.
Pray for us, probably. That's the best way to say it. Pray for us. One day we wake up with a lot of affection.
we sure hope that one day happens because that's part of it. But let's talk about social media.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think Facebook at this point is just for African parents. That's what everybody says. Facebook is for the African uncles. And Facebook is for the African uncles and aunties at this point.
Yeah.
And all right. Well, thank you. I think we just had a technical issue right there, but we are good to go. So, talking about social media, right? Yeah. I don't think there was much of internet back in Africa, Wi-Fi or any of that back then. And I think the questions we get of, oh, do you guys have computers in Africa? That should probably suit generations and generations before. But with that, and as you said earlier, being so scared of the unknown,
yeah.
And obviously social media is a big unknown within the African culture.
Yes.
How do you deal with that to be able to, you cannot teach your kid anything about social media because it's nothing that you know. No. You don't know what happens with it. And there is social media bullying and all of that. And as I just said, the lack of affection, most African parents don't even understand what bullying is.
Yeah.
Because that was just part of growing up back home in Africa. How can we help our parents to recognize that, the challenges that come with being in social media, understand it and recognize it, and be able to talk to their kids about the dangers and everything that goes on in social media?
I think we not having been brought up around social media, the best way we could have, and the best way we could tell a kid, get off social media, that's all. Because yet we don't understand that it's part of you as a child in this era. But we don't know, because how are we supposed to protect you from the unknown? How are we supposed to advise you from the unknown? All we know is Facebook, and for us, everyone who's on Facebook, someone we went to school with, someone who is part of family, and someone who is cultured like we are. So all this bullying, we don't know how to deal with it. And unfortunately, we may not be of good help. You may find help maybe from your teachers at school, your peers, or uncles who are within your age group, or aunties. But from a parent, it's going to be so hard for us to advise you on something that we don't know. First of all, we don't even know how to use it. We just go in just to find out what's the latest. Who is this? What are my OGs doing? That's all. So we don't know how to deal with it. It might be best dealt within your peers.
Within your peers.
Maybe with help from school. But we as your parents, we may not be a great help.
All right.
The best thing the parent is going to tell you, get off social media. Can't you live without it? And you think, yeah, they're not understanding. But we don't understand because we lived all our life without social media.
That's
so
true.
why can't you live without it?
So this is somewhat part of that social media question. And it is mental health.
Yeah.
It's just, mental health as a whole is just a social taboo within our African cultures. That's just whether it's older generations, new generations, but especially living in this country where there is a lot going on. Kids have to experience a lot going to school, being rejected, having to grow up as a minority, everything that goes on with the social media, the bullying and everything. How do we make sure that as African, as in our community, but especially African parents, recognize that mental health is actually something real, and that African kids may be going through it, and some actually are going through it. But how do we, first of all, recognize that to be able to respond to it?
We may have to open up probably committees just to deal with the mental health, because where we come from, we don't believe in mental health for some reason. We believe mental health can be dealt with in churches, can be dealt with in mosques or religiously. We Africans have failed to accept that there is mental health exists, depression exists, because we are like, the way we are brought up, in the cultures we are brought up, in the communities, there was never that. Because we never had anything that we dealt with personally. We dealt with everything with the community. You had someone to help you. Now you're in this culture where it's just you and your parent, you and just a few people, and you're not ready to open up everything to them, or they don't know what you're going through. It's going to be hard. Only way to deal with it is to create more awareness. Could do a few events where they talk about mental health. I don't know if people will attend, but it's something that we have to start. You may get just 3 participants at the beginning, then it will go on. Because we have this a lot. It's going on in our culture. And maybe that's why most of our kids are misbehaving in our homes, running away and doing all this. Maybe they're mentally, they need attention mentally.
And this would be my last question. Being an African parent, having raised your kids here, what is the hardest thing, or what has been the hardest thing for you, and what has been the easiest?
To be a parent, an African parent?
In America.
I think providing is the easiest in America. Raising the child, grooming them, disciplining them, it's the hardest. Especially for a single parent, that's so hard, because you have to be the friend, then you become the teacher, you become the person disciplining, you are everything in one person. So this kid gets confused, because 1 minute you're lovey-dovey, you're playing with them, then the next minute you're so hard on her, you can't do this, you can't do that. Then the next minute you're everything. And my daughter sometimes would be, are you okay? You change, you're moody, because I have to wear all these hats in a split, in one day. You have to do all these things in one day. Even though some of them, even with parents who have a father and mother, they probably for them they choose. You're going to be the hard one, I'm going to be the soft one. Yeah, they find you're going to be friendly to them, I'll be the one.
Bad cup.
But right now, when you're a single parent in America, the easiest way is provide. Put the grocery there, make sure the clothes are there. That's easy. But disciplining these kids in the house, you go cuckoo. It's the hardest thing.
You go cuckoo, you do go loco.
They judge you. They make you actually. You're going through a mental health. Actually, most parents as well need mental health. They need therapy. It's hard. It's hard.
It is hard. It's definitely not easy, but it's a conversation that needs to be had with our community, because the different generations having to grow up in different societies and raising your kids in a different society. But it was a great conversation. It was amazing to have you here. We've discussed about a lot of things. Yeah. And, for kids from African parents out there, know that affection is not coming anytime soon, because as they said, there is nothing we can do about that. But your last word and your message to the community.
Oh, Yeah, I would like to speak to my community, reminding them that ALG is here for us. Let's not look at it as a, by the way, this is part of us. This is a point of stop for all solutions. Health, legal, home ownership, anything that you need, or if at all Papa or his team doesn't have answers, they will find the resources. They will look for the information. Just come in, feel free. His phone call, I mean, his telephone number is known by anyone. The people who work around him are very friendly. Don't be wherever you are alone. Come share your experiences. We may not have all the answers, but we will stand with you. We'll find all the resources and give you all the information that you need. And I'm so grateful to be here to share my experience. So grateful to be part of ALG.
Well, we are really grateful to also have you and count you as a member of this family and a member of our community. And thank you for all the work that you do with the African Leadership Group and for our community. Thank you for joining us once again for another episode of your ALG Weekly. This has been an amazing episode. And as we tell you, every Monday, we come to you at 11:30 with community members, community leaders, and having conversations, bringing the subjects to the table, talking about it, and making sure that we are bringing solutions about these issues that our communities go through on a daily basis. This is the African Leadership Group. As Madinah just said, it's what we do. Any problems within the community, even outside of the community, the African Leadership Group it's an open organization. Everyone is welcome here. So if there's anybody out there that's going through any issues at all, welcome. You are welcome here to come in and join us and talk about it. And community members who maybe are not going through any issues but are experts in their field. So we can use everybody. This is the work of the community. This is not the work of one person. It's not the work of a few. It has to be something that we all of us have a buy-in and make sure that we are working to better our community and build our community. And stay tuned for more events. We have our Women's Empowerment event, which is the International Women's Day on Saturday, March 6th. That's coming up, so stay tuned with that. There's a lot coming up. We also have our monthly legal clinic in March, so that's coming up. But we'll see you next Monday, same time, 11:30, and next Monday we'll have the Women's Empowerment Committee to talk about the upcoming the upcoming event with the International Women's Day. And before then, please take care of yourself. Goodbye.